Alright guys, it's time for our annual meeting on who the best Rathalos is. Let's hear your arguments. Well, to start off, I'd like to say that my fireballs are definitely the coolest. Okay, I don't know that I agree with that, but regardless, my skin looks way better than any of yours. Well, you guys are just copycats, man. I'm the original, the base, the classic Coke, the best boy. Well, I think that... Boo!
Needless to say, there is a lot of monster typage going on. Between rare, variant, deviant subspecies, and then the billion extra when you look at the expanded universe, and well, now Espinas exists and Frontier has another billion types of monsters, it really starts to get a little bit ridiculous. But I don't want to go too far-reaching today. No, today I thought it would be fun to actually look at the two main categories of monsters that we are being promised in these tasty-looking title updates. Rare species like Lucent Nargacuga, and variants like Seething Bazel. And yes, powered up monsters too, and more subspecies as well, but hey, powered up is just going to be more anomaly, let's be honest, though that is fantastic in of itself, and subspecies, we know subspecies. So today it's a battle of variant and rare. Which one is the superior category of monster? Well, what's more fun than having a lore ecology war for, I guess, my own amusement and hopefully your amusement too. Please like my video. So step one then is let's define what a rare species is, and then let's define Let's define what a variant is! You know what I'm saying. So, rare species then are fairly simple to put across. They are all subspecies still, a monster that is changed by its environment. They're just incredibly rare. So like, rare subspecies. So something like Lucent Nargacuga, there's probably like this secret underground jungle, or really far away, remote, undiscovered, misty jungle, or some sort of jungle probably, where Nargacuga are Lucent, and that's just the standard. And that's kind of a terrifying thought. Imagine a Monster Hunter game set in a place where, like, the equivalent of the ancient forest of the Shrine Ruins just has rare species level monsters by default. In any case, it is still the rules of subspecies, a change based on condition or environment that has the entire section of that animal adapted. So, for example, the Bengal tiger and the Siberian tiger are both tigers, but they're both subspecies of tiger. So if there was some sort of, like, hidden underground cavern forest, what is my obsession with hidden underground cavern forest? Where there was a super glowing blue tiger, and all of them were super glowing blue tigers, and they all lived down there. They would be a rare species of tiger. All of them are born like that, all of them live like that. That's just how tiger from this mythical place are. So, for example, all Lucent Nargacuga are born Lucent Nargacuga, and they're all born with dapperly light-bending scales, which is what lets them go invisible, and it is most potent under the rays of a full moon, which is rather quite cool. So then we get to variants, and variants are interesting in that they are a rare individual of a species that something has happened to change it. They're otherwise genetically identical, but that change is also replicatable. The easiest example, of course, is Furious Rajang. It loses its tail, it gets permanently locked into Golden Enrage, and is now a variant. And any Rajang that you tail chop, well, that will recreate the process. It's not so much random, but it is perhaps unlikely in any given member of the species. Oh, and an interesting new little tidbit about Furious Rajang, thanks to the Iceborne book, is that sometimes they rip off their own tail to self-induce the furious state, which is both terrifying and incredibly hardcore. Like, my god! It's also supposedly possible for a Rajang to go furious, but even further beyond, yes, and actually go full golden fur, like 100% of its body golden fur. That would be ludicrous, and I kind of hope that's something that happens eventually in the future of Monster Hunter. Anyway, So for a good real-world example, let's look at axolotls.
Hello!
Which, apart from being really cool animals, are also very cute, but actually the ones that you see in the water that generally are kind of a whitey colour with the classic, mudkip look, they are still technically juveniles. They can still undergo metamorphosis and reach adulthood. The thing is, they just don't tend to do this, not naturally, not in the wild, and they stay in this form underwater for their whole lives. However, if you add a thyroid hormone to the water that it's in, well, you will actually forcibly induce the axolotl's metamorphosis and actually get a true adult axolotl out of it, which would be a variant, something that's recreatable, but seldom seen, and not really due to, an environmental adaptation, but to a recreatable, unique event happening, the adding of the hormone. And I would love to know how many of you already knew that, because it's pretty damn neat. In any case then, that's kind of the combination. There are, however, a few, let's say, discrepancies. Monster Hunter categorization has never been super consistent. So Silver and Gold Rathalos are rare species, but they exist by a rare gene activating in a newly hatched Rathalos or Rathian. That could happen anywhere, it's not environmental, and that's very much variant territory, but back in day, Monster Hunter categorization was all over the place, and they ended up as rare species. Then you have something like Rusted Cachalodora, which technically, yes, it's a variant while it's rusted, but that just means it's shedding. So technically it's a normal Cachala, a normal species, then it has a shed, and temporarily for that time it takes to shed becomes a variant, and then downgrades back to a normal monster after. That's a little bit interesting that a state counts despite it still being technically the same monster. Again, it's a little bit all over the place sometimes, but for the most part it works, and in Seething Bazel's case, in case you're wondering, well, sometimes they can be born with a super potent concentrated distilled blast fluid, which causes them to be able to enter that superheated, almost purple fiery state, and gives them massive explosive scales to drop. And the result of this change to their body makes them much less nomadic, and they tend to stay to the region that they were born in, which is why the Seethings in Iceborne were just Elder's Recess and didn't invade like regular Bazel. So it'd be interesting to see what our Seething in Sunbreak actually does. In any case then, that's kind of the rundown between the pair of them. The question is then, which one do you prefer? Are you a rare species kind of hunter, or are you a variant kind of hunter? I often find myself torn. The idea of there's really unexplored, mysterious parts of the world where there's entire colonies and groups of super powerful versions of a monster forced that way via their environment or some other unifying effect, and new baby ones are still born as Lucents, or there's an entire family of molten tigrex having molten tigrex cubs on some volcano in some faraway forgotten land.
That's hot.
That kind of thing. I think that's very, very cool, and it kind of gives you that inspiring, I want to explore and find this vibe. That's very neat, because it's entirely possible and feasible that in some, again, faraway, uncontactable land in the Monster Hunter world, there is a village, or a town, or a city, and to them, a tigrex just is a molten tigrex, and the regular tigrex that we know would be their equivalent of a subspecies, or a rare species if they deemed it as such, whereas for them, default normal tigrex is what we call molten, the rare species, simply by the product of where they happen to be located relative to the animal, and that's kind of really neat to me and always has been. But at the same time, the concept of a variant, something has happened to it, or it's been born with a mutation that can keep consistently happening but not very often, and it's turned it into this super version of a monster that can happen across the Monster Hunter world wherever they're located equally, and now we have to deal with it. Well, that's also really, really fun. It's really hard for me to call it, but I think I would have to slightly side with the rare species, just because I think it's a little bit cooler and a little bit more terrifying to know that there is lots of them, and monsters that powerful are just standard, and if you went to the right place in the Monster Hunter world, you could end up finding lots and lots of them, and then what are you gonna do? So, yeah, but they are very even, I really have to say that. But in case of Lucent versus Seething, I have to go for Lucent. It's often been my favourite rare species, and I am a sucker for invisible monsters. I think it's very cool. I really do. And I'll be honest, I always kind of preferred regular Basil as an invader than Seething, even though I think the sticky purple growing flower scales are a really cool choice, but I do like that sudden out of nowhere dive bomb that he provided in Base World. In any case, what are your thoughts on both these two categories, on Lucent versus Basil, and what are you hoping we get in the realm of rare and variant as the title updates roll out? For now, I hope you had fun with this, as I did indeed have discussing it. Please like if you enjoyed this, and consider supporting the future of this channel on Patreon down below. Subscribe and hit the bell for more, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.